Hi you guys, welcome back to the channel. So on today's video we are going to be learning how to draft a basic bodice pattern. This should have been done a long time ago, but here we are, so let's get started. So here are the things you're going to be needing: your tape, marker for outlining, your pen, your scissors, ruler, and you're also going to need your curved ruler. So over here I have two pattern papers, one for the front and one for the back. So on your front pattern, you want to determine where you're going to use for the center front and the side front. I already decided where I wanted to use for my center front. So the first thing you want to do is draft out where your neck is going to be sitting. So that's going to be called your neckline. So we're going to be using 4 inches for length and 3.5 inches for width. You can go lower or you can go higher depending on the kind of neckline you are willing to get. So here we're going to be using 4, like I said before, 4 inches by 3.5 inches. So up here I'm still going to mark out my 3.5. I was just going to make a box. Professionals just make their lines and then they just put everything together, but we're not professionals right now. We are learning, so we have to do everything the basic way. So if you don't have a curved ruler to make a curve on your neckline or any other place, you could just go up by 1.5 inch and that would help you create the curve for your neckline. But since we have a French curve here, we're going to use that to create our curve. Next thing I'm going to do after creating my curve is go on the center front, like I said before, and I'm going to just mark out my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'll say that again: shoulder measurement divided by 2, and then we're going to come down by 1 inch. Now it depends on you. Some people go down by 3/4 of an inch, some people go down by 1/2 of an inch, and some people go down by 1 inch, and that's all you can go down by. No 2 inches. Don't go down by 2 inches, I beg you. So 1/3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, or 1 inch. So here we're going to go down by 1 inch, and that is going to give us our shoulder slope. So we're going to connect the lines from our neckline down to where we've already marked 1 inch for our shoulder slope to come to life. But the next thing we want to do is get our round sleeve measurement or armhole measurement divided by 2. So that's what I'm doing here. Mine is 16 and divided by 2 is 8. So we're just going to rule a line across a horizontal line, and then what we're going to do, just to get like very parallel lines, we are going to also mark out our shoulder measurement on that spot where what I just did, and then we're just going to rule a line, and this is going to be the space where our armhole curve is going to be created. So I just did like a long line because we're going to need that as we go on. So the next thing I want to do now is divide. You know, we already got 8 for this, so we're just going to divide that by 2, and dividing that by 2, mine is 4. So I'm just going to, on that same spot where I marked 4, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. And then what I'm going to do next is divide my bust measurement by 4 and mark that out. This is how we're going to create the armhole for the front of our basic bodice pattern. So we're going to connect all the dots that we've made earlier using our French curve, and we're going to do it from the bust measurement that we've made earlier to the 1/2 inch inside to our shoulder slope. If you don't understand what I'm saying, please watch what I'm doing. Thank you. Next thing we're going to do is mark out all our vertical measurements on the paper here. So what I mean is you're going to do your shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and then shoulder to waistline. So my shoulder to bust is 11, shoulder to under bust is 14, and I'm just going to mark out 17 for my waistline. And I know that you're right, but you should know it. You've been gone for. So we're just going to draw horizontal lines across all the dots that we've just made. After ruling the lines, we are going to label. You guys, labeling is very important, especially if you're going to be cutting it out later. Labeling is very important. Even if you're gone, I won't forget. What we're going to do next is how to place dots. How to place dots on your basic bodice pattern. So everything is done right now, and the next thing we're going to do is on the bust side, we're going to go down by 1 inch. I would, when nothing really matters, that's all I wanna do. So there's something you guys have to know when you are creating your dart. For the front part of the dart, it goes down by 1 inch, and for the back it goes up by 1 inch. So my bust, shoulder to bust, is 11. So when I want to create a dart, I have to go down by 1 inch, which is 12, and for the back I will go up by 1 inch, which is 10. So what we're going to do here is divide our under bust by 8. Now if you don't have the person's nipple to nipple, like my nipple to nipple is 8, so divided by 2 is 4. But if you don't have the person's nipple to nipple, the simplest and easiest thing for you to do would just be to divide your under bust by 8, and you will get what you need to get to create the apex line. So you've seen what we've done there. The next thing we're going to do now is create our dart proper. So if you're using a 1 inch dart, what you're going to do is place the 1/2 inch on the apex line. So you're doing 1/2 inch on one side and 1/2 inch on the other side, and that will give you a 1 inch dart. You're placing what you need on the apex line, and you're just going to mark. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, please watch what I'm doing. And like the sign said from the beginning, please turn your phone to landscape so you can properly see what I'm telling you, what I'm teaching you, what is being taught. Yeah. So that is that. Did you see what we did there? So 1/2 inch on both sides makes 1, and you have to make sure that your tape is literally on the apex line so you can get what you're supposed to get to create your half triangle. When nothing really matters, that's all I wanna do. I hope that you are safe and that I will see you soon. This is what we have, you guys. This is what it's looking like. So if you were to take a 2 inches dart right now, this is everything, you guys. We're actually done with this. But if you were to take a 2 inches dart, you would have to place 1 inch. I'm going to use the marker now so you understand where we're coming from. We're going to place 1 inch on the apex line and mark out 1 inch on both sides, and then connect it to the apex line. There's not much to do.
when all I can is thinking about you. Not doing well, don't know where you are, 'cause you're not here. It's been way too long. If I could lay down beside you, I would. When nothing really matters.
And this is what it's going to look like if you're using a 2 inches dart. But since we're using a 1 inch dart, let's go ahead and place all our main measurements. So you want to do your bust measurement divided by 4 and place that. So we've already done that on the chest line, just so you know. And then we're going to add our sewing allowance. Now I'm using a 1.5 inch sewing allowance because I'm comfortable with it, but it depends on what you want to use for your sewing allowance. You can use 1.5, you can use 1, you can use 2. So here we're going to do our waist measurement divided by 4, and then because we are using a 1 inch dart, you want to measure your dart just so you know what you're going to place. You're going to mark that out. Remember, your waist measurement divided by 4, your dart measurement before your, and if you're using 2 inches, you're going to do the same process. So you add your 1.5 inch. Whatever you use as the allowance for the top is what you use as the allowance for the bottom. I just wanted you to know that allowance is allowance. 1.5 inch should go 1.5 inch all the way if that's what you're using, and if you're using 2 inches, use 2 inches all the way. That's for your allowance. Okay, so now we've done that, we're just going to connect these lines together.
You're all I know, what I need, and that ain't changing.
That's everything for the drafting of the front pattern of our basic bodice. So we're going to cut, and please be careful while you're cutting because you can mistakenly cut some things off. It's okay, you can redraft. Mistakes are made, but you can learn from your mistakes.
If I could lay down beside you, I would. When nothing really matters, that's all I wanna do. I hope that you are safe and that I will see you soon. If I could lay down.
So you guys, this is the front pattern in all its glory. Let's go ahead and do the back pattern now. So the back pattern, I already ruled all my lines and everything, but you will notice that we don't have a neck or an armhole or darts. That's because those are the different things from the front or the back. So on the back here, we are going to be adding a zipper allowance. That's another thing that is different from the front. The front doesn't have a zipper allowance, but the back does. So on the zipper allowance part, I'm going to be using a 1.5 inch because that's what, again, I'm comfortable with. You can go in by 2 inches or 1 inch. You can't do half inch. You can go in by 1 inch, 1.5 inch, or 2 inches for your zipper allowance. Whichever one you deem comfortable with, just use it. So over here, you notice that I'm not going over the zipper allowance line, but I want to measure what I'm going to use for my neckline. So here I'm going to be going in by 2.5 by 1.5.
When nothing really matters,
2.5 by 1.5. That's what I'm going in by. And we're going to make our box like we did the first time. You see how the neckline for the back is actually smaller than the one for the front, but this 1.5 was not doing it for me, so I had to make it a 2. So we're using 2.5 by 2. And
that ain't changing.
notice how the width of the neckline extends into the zipper allowance. That's because where we have our zipper allowance is considered the center back of the back pattern.
When nothing really matters, that's all I wanna do. I hope that you are safe and
The center part of your bodice is where your zip is, so you're going to extend that line so that you can get a proper curve. I'm going to put a picture up here so you understand what I mean when I say a curve that leads to where your zip is going to relax.
matters. That's all I wanna do. I hope that you
We're going to create our shoulder slope. So just like we did in the front, we're going to go down by 1 inch, and this is going to be how we'll create our shoulder slope. The next thing we're going to do is create our armhole curve.
is thinking about you. Not
Remember to mark out your bust measurement divided by 4 on the chest line. That way you have the perfect place for your armhole curve to sit.
if I could lay
Using our curved ruler, we want to mark from where we have our shoulder slope down to where we have our bust measurement divided by 4. So the next thing we're going to do is create our apex line. So here we're going to go up by 1 inch. Remember in the front we went down by 1 inch. So at the back here we're going to go up by 1 inch. And of course you're going to do your nipple to nipple divided by 2 or the under bust divided by 8.
how we talk on the phone.
Do you see again that I'm not going over the zipper allowance line? I'm actually starting from the zipper allowance line all the way down. So you want to mark from your bust, not your chest line. You want to mark from your bust line all the way down to your waistline, and you want to also extend that line to where you have your 1 inch marked up for you. So remember that we're going to be using a 1 inch dart, so I'm just going to mark that out here just like we did in the front, and I'm going to roll it all the way to the apex line.
Even if you're gone, I won't forget you.
After we mark our darts together, you're going to come on the chest line and do your bust measurement divided by 4, and then mark that out and put your allowance. And also on your waistline, you're going to do your waist measurement divided by 4, add your dart allowance, and then your sewing allowance.
If I could lay down beside you.
Okay guys, we're going to start cutting. Please be careful again when cutting this, but do not cut out the zipper allowance. It didn't do anything to you. Or else you want to add hoops to this, fine by you, but apart from that, do not cut the zipper allowance. So you see how the back is way different from the front in terms of the neckline, the zipper allowance, the armhole curve, and the dart. Those are the things that makes the back different from the front, and that's like the uniqueness of both patterns. Like, they are different but they work together anyways. If you got to this part of the video, I really do appreciate you. On that note, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and also leave a comment down below. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified when I post a new video. Don't forget to love yourself, because I love you. Bye.